The Ravens actually have one of the better rosters in the league. Well, let's get into this first question from my guy, Oscar, who's been a patron for 2 years. He said, hey, my guy, been a while since I've asked a question on here. Where would you rank the Ravens roster this season? I've seen multiple top 10 lists that don't include the Ravens. I feel like if we will stay healthy, we can take the league by storm, and our talent is not getting the credit it deserves. Hope you and the fam are doing good. This is such a great question to start us off, especially since it's been such a long while since we did questions from subs. And I appreciate y'all being so patient, especially people who have sent in questions and been waiting, but not been complaining. So I love y'all for that even more. So thank you. Now, with Oscar's question about the Baltimore Ravens roster, their roster is nice. Their roster, especially on offense, the depth on there is kind of crazy when you think about it. Obviously, they got one of the better quarterbacks in the league with Lamar Jackson, but then at running back, you got 2 starters. You got J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. You still got Justice Hill, who got experience, and then you got Keaton Mitchell, who is an undrafted rookie, but we'll see, because I've been hearing nothing but good things about him. At fullback, you got Pat Ricard, one of the better fullbacks in the league, but at the same time, nobody really carries a fullback, so it's less competition around other fullbacks in the league, but still, Patrick Ricard be doing his thing as a fullback. At wide receiver, this is where it gets really tricky, because you got Odell Beckham Jr., who has been one of the better receivers in the league when he's been healthy with his experience. He's a Super Bowl champion, may have even been a Super Bowl MVP, we'll never know, but he is a baller. You got Rashod Bateman, who is coming into his 3rd season, and there's still a lot to be proven, but from the flashes that we've seen, Rashod Bateman can do it. He just got to put it all together now, and it's only a matter of time. You got first-round pick Zay Flowers, who looks to complement both Rashod Bateman and Odell Beckham Jr. with his quickness, his agility, and his playmaking ability. Ooh, I didn't even mean for that to rhyme, and it still did. And then you got Devin Duvernay, the gadget guy, who Mr. Do-It-All, Mr. Special Teams as well. And then you still have Nelson Aguilar, also a Super Bowl champion and somebody who a lot of people have been sleeping on, including myself. But so far, it's been so good. And with that being said, with those guys alone, there's a lot of depth there. There's a lot of quality depth there. But the biggest thing with the Baltimore Ravens right now, just with those 3 positions alone, is health. Lamar Jackson missed time over the past couple of years. J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, they missed time over the past couple of years. Odell Beckham Jr., Rashod Bateman, they missed time over the past couple of years. So health, that's the name of the game. And I think that's why when you see people rank Ravens roster, they see the talent. Then you go to Mark Andrews, one of the best tight ends in the league. Then you got Isaiah Likely, Charlie Kolar behind him. Then you got the offensive line, and it's still to be determined, especially the left guard position. But the Ravens, when you look at a lot of their key spots on offense alone, they have a lot of quality depth. But again, health is wealth. You go to the defense, you got the defensive line, young guys. Well, first, Michael Pierce, he's not such a young guy, but health. That's the biggest thing with him, health. Because a lot of times I honestly forget that he's on the team because of health. Broderick Washington, Justin Madubuike. You got those guys coming up. Travis Jones in his 2nd year. Hopefully he can take a nice leap. Then you got at outside linebacker, you got Tyus Bowser. You got Dafe Way. You got David Ajabo. Then at cornerback, it's a lot of unknowns there. You got Marlon Humphrey. You got Rock Yassin. But then after that, you got a lot of pieces, but you don't know who's going to be the guy. But then at safety, you got Marcus Williams, who was doing his thing last year, but then he got hurt. Then you got Kyle Hamilton. So, and then you got Brandon Stevens as well, and then Geno Stone too. So, some solid depth there. But again, biggest thing, Ravens have a nice roster, but I think a lot of people, when they don't want to get too high on the Ravens, they don't want to, because again, when you look at the Ravens on paper, it's like, oh, okay, they got something here. They really do, because they really do. But you just are very concerned with the health aspect of everything. But if the Ravens can stay healthy, then they can make a lot of noise. And something that we need to hear about before we get into this next question is our sponsor. And now a word from our sponsor, Morgan & Morgan. While we're watching the games, we see these football players flying across the field at full speed trying to make plays for their team. But an unfortunate part of that process is injuries. But they're professionals. So when they get hurt, they know exactly where to go to. They know exactly who to call. They know exactly who to reach out to if something happens. But not all of us are professionals, so we don't know. And sometimes even if we do know, it can be a little bit intimidating. But it shouldn't be. With Morgan & Morgan, submitting an injury claim is easy. Morgan & Morgan has modernized the injury law process, so you can submit a claim and have it reviewed by a lawyer without ever having to leave the couch. So when you think about it, you could actually do it while you're watching a football game. You can sign documents, upload pictures, share medical records, and doctor bills all from your cell phone. And I know since y'all have way more important important stuff to do, like watching a football game. You don't want to be on the phone all day and all night with the attorney. But with Morgan & Morgan, you can actually text your attorney or your legal team throughout the duration of your case. So if you ever injured in an accident, hiring an attorney is one of the first things that you need to take care of. And with Morgan & Morgan, submitting a claim is so easy. More than 3 million people have trusted Morgan & Morgan when they were in an accident. So if you're ever in an accident, you can check out Morgan & Morgan. You can submit a claim in 8 clicks or less, all from your phone. And you can have America's largest injury firm fighting for you. For more information, go to forthepeople.com or dial #law. That's #529 from your cell phone.
And you know just what I mean. You too, team, keep it clean. You see my boy, he like gotta made it. Boy, that's my homie, ain't that right engraving?
Team, keep it clean. Welcome to another episode of Questions from Subs, where you can ask any question that you want to, and we answer in a video just like this. Now, if you want to be a part of it, you can send an email to teamkeepitclean@gmail.com, or for anybody who's a Team Keep It Clean patron, you don't have to send an email. You can just send it directly on Patreon. I appreciate all of y'all. I thank you all for being Team Keep It Clean patrons. If you would like to become a Team Keep It Clean patron, you can go to patreon.com/Ingravenvids. And if you don't want to, it's still fine. I love y'all. Now, next question came from another Team Keep It Clean patron, my guy Cody T. He said, hey, just saw a recent question from Subs episode referring to Pat Ricard, and I understand that the fullback is an underutilized position in today's NFL, but I remember hearing something a while back about him cross-training a defensive tackle or being a former defensive tackle. Yeah, he was a defensive tackle. They signed Pat Ricard as an undrafted free agent as a defensive tackle, and they converted him to fullback. But anyway, he said, I'm not overly sure, but I know he has experience in the position. Would that be a viable option to keep Pat off the chopping block? Because I find it hard to believe that the Ravens would be so quick to get off a fan favorite. I love to hear your thoughts and opinions, and always stay tapped in. Love what you do. Peace and love. Appreciate that, Cody. I don't think the Ravens are going to have him at defensive tackle. I don't think they're going to put him there. I think they will just continue to use him exclusively as a fullback. I don't see him going anywhere, though. Not this year, at least. And I know there have been some people that feel like, hey, he could be a surprise cut. I just don't see it. Not even because he's a fan favorite. Not because he's a fan favorite, but he's actually pretty good at what they do. Now, I think beyond this year, especially depending on the way and how much they use Pat Ricard, that could determine his future with the Baltimore Ravens, especially Todd Monken. Todd Monken is not a fullback guy. So I think this season he'll be straight, but beyond this season, it's a big question mark. Ooh, an interesting question right here came from my guy Raven Pride. He said, what's up, Ingraven? How you and the fam? Hope you guys are doing well. I have something I would like to get your opinion on. What team do you think could make the playoffs if they had to use their backup quarterback? Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Bengals, Dolphins, Jaguars, and Steelers? Are those your answers, or are you like telling me to pick amongst those teams? Because if I had to pick amongst those teams, that's a really great question. I would actually say 49ers. that would be the team that I would pick to make the playoffs with their backup quarterback, because they've been doing it. They keep on doing it. But he also said, would the Ravens have the cap space to go shopping on I-95 and grab Chase Young because his 5th-year option wasn't picked up? So if they wanted to make it happen, they could. I remember the whole Bleacher Report, Patrick Queen, Chase Young thing. I wouldn't do that trade. But if you could just get Chase Young straight up, I mean, it couldn't hurt. You would have him for a year. It couldn't hurt. Especially if he was healthy and he wasn't hurt. It couldn't hurt. So yeah, that could be a nice pickup. But just going back to that Patrick Queen, Chase Young trade, I would not do that one. I would keep Patrick Queen. But to just grab Chase Young just to add him to the roster, oh yeah, I'm all for that. Next question came from my guy Martin, who's been a patron for 2 years. He said, been a couple of weeks since I sent in a question. Things have been super busy this summer, but I just wanted to ask today that why are some Ravens fans so nasty? I've often said that we have the most toxic fan base, but maybe I only notice because it's the team I pay attention to the most. LOL. Yes, that's true. Because I'm sure every single other fan base of every other team could and would say the same exact thing. Like, oh, man, yeah, we got the most toxic fan base. And other teams would be like, oh, no, we got the toxic. So, yeah, I think it is because you're in that environment. So you're interacting with a lot of Ravens fans and whatnot. And you get to see a lot of good. You get to see a lot of great, which is amazing. But then on the flip side, you get to see a lot of nasty, too. And that's the unfortunate part about fandom. The good, but then there is, unfortunately, the bad. Continuing, he said, it really bugged me the most when I watched the presser for Lamar signing. We were there to celebrate, but as I'm reading the comments in that live stream, it was pretty much all hateful stuff. People just talking trash. People talking trash about this and that, about Flacco. And I'm just thinking to myself, what does any of that have to do with Lamar signing his contract? I didn't understand the other nonsense. And if people don't like something, then why would they watch it? Flacco hasn't been on the team since 2018. Why do people keep disrespecting him when he's not even on the team anymore? I know this is a bit irrelevant since the Lamar signing video was months ago, but I can be a bit scatterbrained, and sometimes it may take me 15 minutes to sit down and type out my question or comment. LOL, I have more stuff to send. Sorry for the rant, just something I wanted to get off my chest. Oh, obviously, don't think every Ravens fan is negative. I just think the ones that are extremely toxic and vocal are. Yeah, so I mean, I get it, and it is an unfortunate part of just all of this, the fandom in general, because people are going to be people at the beginning and the end of the day, and it is what it is. I think that's the best way to try to look at it. Just look at it like it is what it is, and it's going to be what it's going to be. You can't sweat it too much. You can't dwell on it too much. And I know it's frustrating and it's annoying and it's all those things, but you just got to let it roll and just leave it at that. This question came from my guy Jason, who's been a patron for about a month. He said, hope your week is going well so far and the family is doing good. Oh yeah, things are really good. I appreciate it. I have some downtime at work and I was watching some old videos of Ravens highlights, and my question is, was Greg Roman holding Lamar's football IQ hostage by not sending the plays down in time for Lamar to read the defense on nearly every play? Before we get into the rest of your question, yes, I think so. Because if you sending the plays in late, you sending them in super late, and that gives the quarterback less time to really analyze what's going on. But anyway, you said, I mean, the clock was always around 4 seconds or less by the time they got information, and it seemed like almost every play could have been a game clock penalty. I see this season being one where Lamar will have 10 to 15 seconds to read the defense and get the reads he wants. Will this cause the NFL and the fans to think Lamar took a big developmental jump? If so, that will be really irritating for the Ravens fans, because they will show us who watched every week, every game. It will show that Lamar Jackson was actually being held back. Then the whole imagine what we could have done without Roman, which is where my mind is at this point in time. What are your thoughts? Did Roman hold the Ravens back, especially when Lamar Jackson? Anyway, thanks for all that you do. Good things come when we need them, not when we want them. Stay patient. It will happen, and stay blessed. I appreciate that, Jason. Thank you, my friend. But yeah, I would say yeah. I would say yeah, not even based off of just the play clock alone. I mean, that was an issue in itself, but really just the way that they ran things, the way that they operated the offense, the way that they didn't evolve, they didn't take that next step. And I felt like with the offense, they didn't do what they needed to do to bring the best out of Lamar. So that was an issue. And yeah, that the whole what could have been and what if, oh yeah, trust me, we all been thinking about that for a long time. And I do hope that this season brings that out even more. I mean, it'll be unfortunate, but we're here now. So, I mean, yeah, I think about those what ifs and what could have been. I've been thinking about those for years. What could have been if the offense would have went in a different direction? What could have been if they really evolved? What could have been if they would have really invested in the wide receiver position while Lamar was on his rookie deal, like really invested in it like they seem to have done this offseason? What could have been? And that's sad. Next question came from my boy George. You say, Project Pat. Good morning to you and the fam. I was just thinking, two topics I keep hearing the talking heads talk about. What will Pat Ricard's role be in this new offense? And what is the defensive line going to look like with only Travis Jones on the contract after this year and the release of Calais Campbell, and with Broderick Washington and Matabike on the last year of their contracts? First part, what will Pat Ricard's role be in this offense? That's a really good question. I think it'll be a limited role because, like we talked about earlier, Monken is not a fullback guy, so I think it could be an extremely limited role. Now, as far as what will the defensive line look after this year, since only Travis Jones is under contract, we're gonna see the big year for Broderick Washington and Matabike, man. Big year, and this with Matabike, the time went by so fast. Felt like we just drafted him like a couple of years ago. And he said, do you see a scenario where Ricard will switch back to the defensive side of the ball? Nope, not at all. I don't see that at all. He said, and if we can only extend one of Matabike or Washington, which one would you re-sign, with Matabike possibly getting a big payday or Washington with a lower cap number and possibly better value? I think it all just depends on how they do. Everything just depends on how they do. I feel like with Matabike, there's more upside because there's more like athletic ability. But everything just depends. It's so early right now, even though like training camp is here, but I feel like it's too early. You say, love what you do. Thank you for the positive insight and the hard work you bring us to, you put in to bring us daily Ravens content. Appreciate that, George. Thank you, man. And thank you for always, I always see your name in the comment section, literally every single video. So I appreciate that a lot, man. New hype, man. Next question came from my guy, John. He said, aloha, Ingraven. Seems the Ravens have benefited from having a loud mouthpiece or hype man in the past. Someone who positively riles up the team, the media, and the fans. Mark Ingram, Ray Lewis, and most recently, Calais Campbell have been a few that I can think of. With Calais gone, who do you think will fill this role, if anyone? Thanks for all everything that you do and keeping it clean, John. Appreciate that, John. Thank you, man. That's a good question, because a hype man can serve as a motivational guy, somebody who can really bring the team together. If the team is kind of like lacking a little bit, they can give them that little extra pick me up. Man, that's a good question. Cause Calais, yeah, he would be over there talking trash, having fun on the sideline stuff. Mark Ingram, obviously, Ray Lewis, it's not fair comparing anybody to him, but man, that's such a great question, and I don't know, cause Lamar's not really the hype man like that. That's not his personality like that. He'll talk to the guys and try to get them in, but it's just different. It's not like hype like that. He'll talk to them, try to get them motivated and whatnot, but it's different. Like Mark ain't gonna be over there dancing and stuff. Calais Campbell too, but I think I'm going through all the different positions on the team. Maybe Odell Beckham Jr. I guess Odell Beckham Jr. He could be that guy, because he gonna be having fun, especially if the Ravens win. He gonna be having fun. But so I would say Odell Beckham Jr. If I got to think of one on the defensive side of the ball, I say Marlon Humphrey, because Marlon Humphrey has become way more outspoken over the past couple of years than he was before. I go Odell and Marlon. Next question came from my guy Oreo Cookie. He said, what's more likely? Hello, Ingraven. I promise this is the last question for a while. What you promising that for? Ain't nobody complaining about getting no questions, man. Don't apologize for that. Send in whatever question, man. Anyway, he said, but I want to know your thoughts on which player seems more likely to be signed at this point. Oh, okay. A little bit late, but we still rock with it. He said the players were now DeAndre Hopkins and Marcus Peters. He said, I see both as very unlikely at this point, but you never know. P.S. I feel like if you did more lists and other things, that will allow your channel to be seen to a larger audience. As much as I appreciate mainly the Ravens content, I just want to see the channel grow exponentially. Ooh, big word right there. And have success, but that's all. Peace. Appreciate that. Thank you. And that's something that I'll consider doing. We'll see. But I appreciate that for real, man. I would definitely have said DeAndre Hopkins when it comes to those two, that comparison right there between those two, because one's still a really, really good receiver. And not to say Marcus Peters is not still a really good corner, but the last time you saw DeAndre Hopkins versus the last time you saw Marcus Peters on the field, I think that's why. Next question came from my guy Greg in Bmore. He said, what's up? Hope all is good. Just saw the Tom Grossi vid recently in Baltimore, and that was cool. Tom invited you along for the stadium tour, and glad you had fun. Yeah, shout out to Tom, man. Grossi posse. He said, Lamar Jackson in year 6 already. Hard to believe. I'm predicting 4,000 yards passing, 700 yards rushing, and 40-plus passing touchdowns, 5-plus rushing touchdowns, and under 8 interceptions. Oof. That sounds like an MVP year to me. He said a healthy Odell Beckham Jr., Zay Flowers, Rashod Bateman, Nelson Aguilar, and Duvernay are definitely the top 5 wide receivers on this team. And from what I've been hearing about Aguilar, probably a better option to put ahead of the depth chart than Bateman. Though I love Bateman, but Aguilar been balling in OTAs and minicamp, and Bateman still recovering from the foot or ankle injury. I think the way it's going to be on the depth chart is OBJ wide receiver 1, Zay Flowers is wide receiver 2/3, sharing wide receiver 2 duties with Bateman, and Aguilar wide receiver 4. But is Aguilar a better option for the wide receiver 2 or 3 role than Bateman? I think right now, not later in future years, but currently for this upcoming season, Aguilar might be a better option than Bateman. Good question. I actually don't think Bateman will be the 2. I think Bateman will be the 1. And I think Odell Beckham Jr. would be the 2, with Aguilar being that 2/3 that you was talking about, and Aguilar coming in 2 and being sort of that 3/4. But yeah, I think Bateman is going to be wide receiver number 1. Next question came from my guy S Moosh. He said, what's up, buddy? So cap space for this season is tight. I believe I heard cap space for next season is very tight. When final roster cuts and players being shuffled around, I would assume that also means restructured contracts and possibly more cap space. It could a little bit, but it ain't going to be no dramatic additional amount of cap space that the Ravens get once they do all the cap cuts and whatnot. Because a lot of the guys that they have on the team now are guys that are not going to make the final roster. They're just here for like camp and stuff like that. There's some competition, some chance that some guys may make, but a lot of them are just here for the training camp and whatnot, because it goes from a 90-man roster to a 53-man roster. So they pretty much got the majority of their roster, like guys that they know are going to make it. But then at the same time, they got some spots where it's like, oh, okay, well, this was a surprising training camp. We want to keep him. So and that stuff happens every year. But I don't think it's not going to be this big dramatic increase in cap space due to them moving some guys along and releasing some guys off the roster. Next question came from Baltimore on 54. He said, hey, it's been a while since I wrote, but I've been watching every day. Keep up the good work. Hey, I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm going to the Baltimore Ravens stadium practice. So do you think any other moves are going to happen before the practice? Today is July 18th. Okay. Had to make sure that was right. Y'all won't be seeing us on the 18th. Y'all probably see this maybe on the 20th, 21st. Who knows? But anyway, today is the 18th. The practice is on the 26th. Oh, no, 29th. July 29th, I think. Maybe something small. Maybe something crap. Nothing big. I don't think the Ravens are going to make some big dramatic move before then. Anything's a possibility. But, I mean, right at this point, what would really be considered big? They could bring back Justin Houston. They could sign Jadeveon Clowney. They could do something like that. But I don't anticipate them making some big move. But a move, yeah, they could make a move. But I don't think it would be anything of significance.
Yeah, this feels like a dream.